The liberal officers thought they'd grounded Kash Patel with a bold stand, until the FBI director fired back with a sharp, unyielding response that left them speechless. Their refusal to let him board sparked a confrontation that would cost them dearly, as Patel ensured they'd lose their jobs instantly. His words cut deep, exposing their bias and teaching a lesson they'd never forget. Kash Patel stood as a towering figure in 2025, serving as the director of the FBI with a reputation that preceded him. He had risen through the ranks with a career marked by loyalty to former President Donald Trump, holding roles like senior advisor to the Director of National Intelligence. His conservative stance made him a hero to some, a villain to others, as he led the FBI with a focus on national security and a hardline approach to law enforcement. On a brisk morning in 2025, Kash Patel arrived at a private airfield, ready to board a jet for an urgent FBI matter. He carried a small suitcase, his focus on the critical work ahead, possibly a high-stakes meeting in Washington, D.C. As he approached the jet's stairs, a group of uniformed officers and a pilot blocked his path, their expressions a mix of defiance and resolve. The officers and pilot had a history of vocal liberal views, often criticizing Kash Patel's leadership on social media. They saw his policies as oppressive, his appointment as a threat to justice, and his conservative ideals as a danger to the nation. They had decided that morning to take a stand, refusing to let Patel board the jet, determined to make a statement against the man they despised. One officer, the leader of the group, stepped forward and spoke first. "You're not boarding this plane, Mr. Patel," he declared, his voice firm. "We know who you are, and we're not letting someone with your views fly on our watch." The pilot nodded in agreement, adding, "I'm not flying with you on board. It's my call, and I'm making it." Kash Patel stopped in his tracks, setting his suitcase down with deliberate calm. He looked at the officer, then the pilot, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. "You're refusing me because of my views?" he asked, his tone steady but laced with authority. "You're aware I'm the FBI director on official business, and you have no legal grounds to stop me?" The officer smirked, emboldened by his colleagues' support. "Legal grounds or not, we're not letting you board," he shot back. "You represent everything we're against. Your policies, your politics, your whole agenda. We're taking a stand, and you can't do anything about it." The pilot chimed in. "That's right. I don't care who you are. I'm not flying with you." Kash Patel's expression remained unreadable, but a fire ignited in his gaze. He took a step closer, his voice lowering to a commanding tone that carried the weight of his position. "You think you're taking a stand?" he said, his words sharp and deliberate. "You're not heroes. You're cowards hiding behind your badges, letting your biases make fools of you. I'm the director of the FBI, and you're obstructing federal authority. You want to play this game? I'll show you how it ends." The officers and pilot fell silent, their confidence wavering under the intensity of Patel's words. The lead officer opened his mouth to respond, but Patel cut him off, his voice rising with unyielding force. "You don't get to decide who boards this plane based on your personal feelings," he continued. "You swore an oath to uphold the law, not to push your agenda. You've just thrown your careers away, and I'll make sure you feel the consequences, right now." The group stood speechless, their earlier bravado replaced by uncertainty. Patel's words had stripped away their justifications, exposing the flaw in their actions with surgical precision. He had turned their so-called stand into a display of their own failure, leaving them with nothing to say. The officer who had spoken first shifted uncomfortably, while the pilot looked down, unable to meet Patel's gaze. Kash Patel pulled out his phone, his movements deliberate, and made a call to a high-ranking official, likely the Attorney General. He reported the situation with clarity, stating that airport personnel were obstructing him due to their political biases and requesting immediate action. His voice remained calm, but the authority behind it was undeniable, a stark contrast to the silence of the officers and pilot, who now realized the gravity of their mistake. Within minutes, a black SUV arrived on the tarmac, and two federal agents stepped out, their presence a clear signal of the consequences to come. They approached Kash Patel, offering a brief acknowledgement before turning to the officers and pilot. The lead agent delivered a direct order. The officers and pilot were relieved of duty, effective immediately, and they were to leave the area at once. The officers and pilot stood in stunned silence, the weight of Patel's lesson sinking in. He had taught them that their authority was not a tool for personal vendettas, and that challenging a federal official like him would lead to swift and severe repercussions. His words during the confrontation had left them speechless, and now his actions ensured they'd lose their jobs instantly, a direct result of their defiance. Kash Patel watched as the agents took control, his point made with undeniable clarity. He had shown the officers and pilot that their biases had no place in their roles, and that their refusal to let him board was a betrayal of their duty. The lesson was not just in their firing, but in the way Patel had dismantled their argument, exposing their actions as reckless and unjustified, leaving them with no defense. The agents took statements from airport staff who had witnessed the exchange, ensuring a thorough record of the incident. The officers and pilot, still reeling from Patel's words, offered no resistance as they were escorted off the tarmac. Their careers in airport security and aviation were over, a consequence they had not anticipated when they decided to confront the FBI director. Kash Patel picked up his suitcase and boarded the jet, the plane taking off shortly after. He had handled the situation with the precision of a seasoned leader, using his authority to teach a lesson that would resonate far beyond the airfield. The officers and pilot had underestimated him, believing their stand would go unchallenged, but Patel had proven them wrong in a way they'd never forget. News of the incident spread rapidly, dominating headlines and sparking intense debate. Many praised Kash Patel for his handling of the situation, seeing his response as a necessary stand against bias in positions of authority. His supporters pointed to the confrontation as evidence of the challenges he faced, arguing that his decisive action was a testament to his leadership. Critics, however, questioned whether the officers and pilot had been treated too harshly, suggesting they deserved a chance to explain their actions. The officers and pilot faced a grim future, their careers destroyed in a single morning. Sources indicated that a formal investigation into their actions was underway, with the possibility of criminal charges for obstruction of a federal official. Legal experts noted that such charges could lead to significant penalties, including jail time, adding to the weight of their mistake. Their decision to refuse Patel had been a fleeting act of defiance, but its consequences would follow them for years. Kash Patel's lesson to the officers and pilot became a talking point across the nation. He had shown them that their roles required impartiality, and that letting personal biases dictate their actions would lead to their downfall. His words during the confrontation had left them speechless, stripping away their justifications and exposing the flaw in their stand. The firing that followed was the final piece of the lesson, a clear demonstration of the consequences of challenging federal authority. The speed of the officers' and pilot's termination highlighted the power Kash Patel wielded as FBI director. His call for action had reached the highest levels of government, likely the Attorney General or the President's office, and the response had been immediate. In cases involving federal officials, especially someone of Patel's stature, the system acted swiftly to address misconduct, ensuring that challenges to authority were met with decisive consequences. Kash Patel's leadership of the FBI continued to be a source of controversy, but the incident at the airfield strengthened his position among his supporters. They saw him as a leader who could stand up to opposition, using his authority to teach a lesson to those who dared to defy him. His critics, however, argued that his response was an overreach, claiming that the officers and pilot deserved a chance to explain their actions before being fired. The debate raged on, reflecting the broader struggle to find common ground in a polarized society. The officers and pilot became a cautionary tale for others in similar roles. Their decision to refuse Kash Patel had been driven by their beliefs, but it had led to their downfall. They had underestimated the man they targeted, and they had not anticipated the speed with which their actions would be addressed. Their story served as a warning to others. In a position of authority, personal biases could lead to professional ruin, especially when directed at someone with Patel's power. Kash Patel, now at his destination, likely reflected on the incident as he continued his work. He knew that his position made him a target, and that incidents like this were part of the territory. But he also knew that he had the support of those who believed in his vision for the FBI, and that the system would protect him when it mattered most. The officers and pilot, on the other hand, were left to face the consequences of their actions. their futures uncertain. The incident at the airfield became a defining moment in Kash Patel's tenure as FBI director. It showcased his ability to wield authority effectively, teaching a lesson to those who challenged him while reinforcing his position as a leader. The officers and pilot, in their attempt to make a statement, had instead become an example of what not to do, their careers sacrificed in a single ill-fated decision. Patel's lesson was clear. Duty must always come before ideology, and those who failed to uphold that principle would face the consequences. The broader implications of the incident continued to unfold in the weeks that followed. It prompted discussions about the need for training and oversight to ensure that those in positions of authority acted impartially. It also highlighted the power dynamics at play when a high-ranking official like Kash Patel was involved, showing how quickly the system could respond to protect its own. For those who witnessed the events, either in person or through the viral videos that circulated online, it was a moment that captured the tension of the times. Kash Patel's role as FBI director remained a focal point of debate, but he showed no signs of backing down. He had weathered the storm at the airfield, emerging with his authority intact, while those who opposed him faced the consequences of their actions. The incident served as a reminder of the stakes involved in his position and the challenges of leading in an era defined by division. For Patel, it was just another day on the job, but for the officers and pilot, it was a day that changed their lives forever. The political divide that fueled the confrontation showed no signs of abating. If anything, the incident deepened the rift between conservatives and liberals, each side digging in further to defend their perspective. Kash Patel remained a polarizing figure, admired by some and reviled by others, his every move scrutinized by a divided nation. The officers and pilot, meanwhile, faded from the public eye, their careers derailed by a single decision that taught them a lesson they would never forget. The events of that morning at the airfield became a topic of discussion for weeks, with pundits, politicians, and the public weighing in on what had happened. Some saw it as a victory for accountability, a sign that the system would not tolerate bias in positions of power. Others viewed it as an overreach, arguing that the officers and pilot deserved a chance to explain their actions before being fired. The debate raged on, reflecting the broader struggle to find common ground in a deeply divided society. Kash Patel's lesson to the officers and pilot was not just about the loss of their jobs. It was about the importance of impartiality in positions of authority. He had shown them that their roles required them to serve without prejudice, and their failure to do so had cost them everything. The incident became a symbol of the challenges he faced as a leader and a testament to the consequences of crossing a line in the name of ideology. For Patel, it was a moment of triumph, but for the officers and pilot, it was a moment of reckoning.